And welcome. I'm Cher the Shadow Walker, and I'm taking a look at from Quebec right through to British Columbia for cryptid sightings for the last 48 hours. In Quebec, a Bigfoot near James Bay region at 11:30 p.m. on March 20th. Two people, two sets of red eyes observed from the vehicle. A large bipedal tracks were found in the moss, and they reported it to the Cree Nation Wildlife Monitors. And a dog man at Par de Sepchut at 1:45 on March 22nd, one witness experienced a soul-reading encounter near the waterfalls. Figures stood perfectly still before blurring into the bush, and they reported it to the dog man file. And in the Gaspésie region, a screamer in the Chic-Choc Mountains at 3 a.m. on March the 21st, three people. Metallic, non-biological screams heard by night hikers caused intense emotional download, and they reported it to the Atlantic Scanners file. And a hellhound in the Laurentian Mountains near Mount Tremblant at 12:15 a.m. on March 21st, one person saw a smoky, large black canine seen near the hiking trails. It vanished instantly when lights were focused on it, and they reported it to the Quebec Paranormal Registry. And a spider humanoid near the Tetford Mines asbestos slash rock pile area. At 2 a.m. on March 22nd, two people, a pale, thin figure with elongated limbs scuttling over the industrial rock piles, and they reported it to the cryptid file. Also, a skinwalker in the Benutz region, rural farmland, at 10:30 p.m. on March 21st. Two people reported hearing mimicking cries of their neighbor's voice accompanied by extreme animal agitation in the barn, and they reported it to the local Quebec file for cryptids. In Ontario, a Bigfoot near Algonquin Park in Highway 60 area at 11:30 p.m. on March 20th, two witnesses saw a large bipedal crossing the road. A driver reported a heavy emotional download of sorrow, and they reported it to the Ontario Sasquatch Research Team. And a dog man in Smooth Rock Falls in the back road, on a back road. At 2:15 a.m. on March 22nd, one person, a soul-reading encounter. The creature stood upright near the old logging trail, and they reported it to the Dogman file. And a vocalization of a screaming near Madawaska Valley at 3 a.m. on March 21st. Three people, metallic piercing shrieks that vibrated the cabin windows, captured on digital scanner, and they reported it to the Ontario file. And a hellhound in Ancaster near the Hummich ruins at 12 a.m. on March 22nd. Two people, a shadow dog with sulfur-like smell vanished into the stone shell of the ruins, and they reported it to the local Ontario Registry of Cryptids. And a spider humanoid near Elliott Lake mining at it at 1:45 on March 22nd, on March 21st, sorry, one person, a multi-limbed pale figure scuttling vertically up the rock face near the abandoned shaft, and they reported it to the Cryptid Archive of Canada. My father, my uncle, and my cousin all worked at that mine when it was open. Skinwalker, Six Nations Wood Boundary Area at 10:30 p.m. on March 20th, two people. The reported whistling and cry of a specific family member and that family member's deep laughter, even though that family member wasn't with them, and it was coming from in the deep brush. And they reported it to the local cryptids file. Next is Manitoba, and there was a Bigfoot in the Sandlands Provincial Forest at 11:50 on March 20th. One person reported mind speak warning, witness felt intense mental push to leave the area immediately. And that was reported to the Manitoba Sasquatch file. A dogman near Highway 6 in the Steep Rock area at 3:15 a.m. on March 22nd, two witnesses reported seeing a large digital grade creature standing by the limestone cliffs, and they experienced soul reading eye contact, and they reported it to the dogman file. And a vocalization screaming near White Shell Provincial Park at 2:45 a.m. on March 21st. Three people, a metallic non-animalistic scream echoing off the rock face, captured on digital scanner, and they reported it to the Manitoba Scanners Society. Hellhounds in the Gimli coastal marsh at 1:30 a.m. on March 22nd. One person, a massive black dog with glowing yellow eyes, glided over the marshland without disturbing the water, and they reported it to the local lore registry. A spider humanoid near Flin Flon at the abandoned mine site at 12:05 a.m. on March 21st. One person witnessed a pale, multi-limbed figure seen scuttering across the rocks, metal granite with mechanical speed. And it's to the cryptid file. Guess they said it sounded like metal. A skinwalker in the Duck Mountain Provincial Park at 10:15 p.m. on March 21st. Two people reported whistling and the mimic cry of a campsite member's voice calling from deep in the brush, and they reported it to the local cryptid file. So in Saskatchewan, in the Aquapel Valley area, at the edge, at 11:10 p.m. on March 20th, one person saw a large bipedal descending a ridge. Witness reported an overwhelming mind speak feeling of being watched, and they reported it to the Saskatchewan Bigfoot Society. And a dogman near Highway 11, near the Dundurn area, at 3:30 a.m. on March 22nd, two witnesses reported seeing a digital grade creature loping alongside a vehicle at 80 kilometers, and they experienced a soul reading eye contact with it, and they reported it to the dogman file. Near Prince Albert National Park at 2 a.m. on March 21st, three people, a non-biological shrieks that echoed across the frozen lake, and they match what they figure is a Bigfoot. So they reported that to the cryptid file. And then we have a hellhound in the St. Louis Old Railway Bed area at 1:15 a.m. on March 22nd. Two people. A shadowy black dog with red glowing eyes was seen pacing parallel to the ghost lights, and they reported it at the St. Louis Registry. And a spider humanoid was seen near the Uranium City abandoned site at 12:45 a.m. on March the 21st. One person, a pale multi-limbed figure seen scuttling across the rocks and across the rusted steel structure before moving towards the inside in a jerky, precisioned movement. And they reported it to the Cryptid Archive Society. And a skinwalker in the Batouche Wooded Perimeter at 10:50 p.m. on March 21st, two people reported hearing cry and whistling that shifted into family members' voices. and they reported a foul odor present. And they reported it to the Saskatchewan file for cryptids. So in Alberta, a dogman in the Horse Thief Canyon near Drumheller at 1:30 a.m. on March 22nd, two witnesses saw a digital grade figure leaping across the coulees, and they experienced a soul-reading eye contact with both of them, and they reported it to the local dogman file. And a Bigfoot in the Nordic Rocky Mountain foothills at 10:45 on March 20th, one person observed the creature near the tree structures. Witness reported a peaceful mind speak encounter, and they reported it to the Alberta Sasquatch file. And a vocal near Kananaskis and the Highwood Pass area at 3:15 a.m. on March 21st. Three people described metallic high shrieks vibrating through the vehicle and captured it on the dash cam, and they reported it to the local Kananaskis area. Hellhounds near Croness Pass Old Site Mines at 12 a.m. on March 22nd. One person, a smoky black hound, was seen with glowing internal ambers, seen near Frank Slide debris. I guess it just says glowing internal ambers. It doesn't say glowing eyes. And they reported it to the local archives, the registry. And a spider humanoid near Lethbridge in the high level bridge area at 1:10 a.m. on March 21st. Two people, a pale multi-limbed figure scuttling beneath the bridge structures, moving with jerky speeds. And they reported it to the Cryptid Archive of Canada. And a skinwalker in Elk Island, the northern perimeter, at 11:30 p.m. on March 21st. Two people witnessed hearing a cry. One heard their own voice, and the other voice from earlier in the day, words that they'd already spoken, and they reported it to the local community log. In Alberta, a Bigfoot near Pitt Lake at 11:30 on March 20th, two people. A large bipedal figure was seen near the water line. The mind speak warning to go back. And they reported it to the BC Sasquatch Society. And a dogman in Cranbrook near the old fire hall at 2:15 a.m. on March 22nd, one person, a digital grade figure seen in the shadows of the alley, and a soul reading eye contact was felt, and that was reported to the dogman file. And screamer, so a vocalization in New Westminster near the BC Penn Gatehouse at 3 a.m. on March 21st. Three people, metallic non-biological screams heard near the old prison towers, and they reported it to the BC Scanners file. And a hellhound in Victoria in the Bastille Square area at 1:15 a.m. on March 22nd. Two people, a shadowy black dog with glowing eyes, was seen pacing the Hemkick Valley, and it vanished instantly, and they reported it to the Victoria Ghostly Walks. And a spider humanoid near Tumbler Ridge and the Rocky Escarpment at 12:45 a.m. on March 21st. One person witnessed a pale, multi-limbed figure seen scuttling vertically up the rock face near the falls, and they reported it to the Cryptid Archive Canada and the BC Spirit file. And a skinwalker, Pitt Lake area. At 10:30 p.m. on March 21st, two people reported whistling and a cry of a family member's voice. and visual of shifting shadows, and they reported it to the local Cryptid Archive of Canada Society. Thank you so much for listening and have a wonderful day. And please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I really appreciate it and thank you.